What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Full Blast. I am your host, Raja Burrows, and today we're going to be talking about OE versus OI, also known as Gather versus... Before we get into that, please be sure to like and subscribe. I'm going to drop some links in the description below if you want to get in touch with me personally through Instagram or email or whatever. Feel free to share this far and wide, share it in the Facebook group. Okay, I'm very excited. I'm very excited about this one because I have, in my absence from social media, it has given me a lot of perspective when it comes to resources. How I think about resources, where resources are, how I use resources, how I can, everything having to do with the resources that are available to me, whether they are social resources, spiritual resources, emotional resources, physical resources, financial resources, physical space resources, time resources, like all of the different ways in which resources manifest in my life and in all of our lives. I've been thinking about it a lot. And it sort of got me thinking about one of the ways in which I've gotten really tripped up in thinking about our observer functions. And I titled this video, OE versus OI, Gather versus because I don't think that organize really gets to the heart of what OI is really doing. And it really doesn't get to the heart of it because I started thinking about the ways in which change is hard. The ways in which change is hard. There it is. Right? Because change is hard for everybody. It does not matter what your type is, what anything is. Change is always going to be difficult or scary or unknown or whatever adjective you want to put with it. Change is just a thing that we humans have to contend with by virtue of just being human. And I started really thinking about change and the difficulty of change and the importance of change and whatever, because I was like, if the texts from, 3,000 years ago are talking about the need to embrace change and the ways in which that is difficult or scary or uncomfortable but ultimately important, then we can't ascribe, I don't know, I feel like gather versus organize or new versus same is insufficient. Because if that really were the case, then we would see a distribution, across all types where it's like, well, the people who are most resistant to change and the people who fear change the most are the lead OIs, the double activated lead OIs. And then somewhere in the middle, you'll have the double observers, the EJs and the IPs. And then on the far end of the spectrum, you should have the crazy wackadoo, not crazy wackadoo. Why? See, it's built into the language. I'm trying to catch myself. A lot of neural rewiring that has to happen. When you get the EPs on the far end, who are like the consume play double activated EPs, should theoretically be totally fine with change, but that's not the case. Because if it were the case, then texts from 3,000 years ago wouldn't generalize like that. They wouldn't be able to generalize like that. And that's a recurring theme across the globe across different faiths, across different belief systems. So I'm like, okay, so this idea of new versus same, I'm not totally feeling it. In the sense of, I don't think it's the most helpful way to frame this coin when it comes to personal growth, working on your demons, whatever. So I was like, okay, well, what is it then? Right? And really, so I like Gather for OE. And I like looking at it, right? So if we look at the observers as resource management muscles, for lack of a better word. I don't love the word muscle. I'm much more into like perception, perspective, mindset, but I'm going to shorthand it as muscle just for sake of, oratory, for lack of a better word. And really the observer coin, the OE and the OI, are really all about the game, the system, and seeing where the resources are. OE is responsible for resources outside of us, however you define that, in the outside world on the extroverted spectrum, and OI is responsible for the resources on the inside world, on the introverted spectrum, within the walls of the castle, so to speak. But whether you feel a responsibility primarily towards OE or OI, you're still gonna fear change in some way, shape, or form. You're going to fear the new and the unknown, and there might be a part of you that gets really excited about it because you've hacked your brain, whatever, but like there's going to be like there's going to be something that you're like, nope, this is a change, this is different. I think of the end of The Shield. It's a little bit more of a spoiler than I want it to be, but it's so relevant, and the show ended 15 years ago that I think I'm in the clear. Basically, at the end of The Shield, one of the main characters, who is very, very EP-ish, very outside world, very gather, has to change. And this character does not like that. So I'm partially harping on this just because I want to really be clear about the fact that EPs are not immune from the whole change is difficult thing. It's not like they are magical unicorns who are totally fine with change all the time, no matter what. They just want change. No. And conversely, it's not like the IJs are disproportionately terrified of change, because that doesn't align with the wisdom from 3,000 years ago. It just doesn't. This is a genuinely universal thing. So, with that all firmly planted, I would like to propose a different set of words to describe the OE-OI axis. And that is gather and optimize. Okay. So why gather and optimize rather than gather and organize? Well, first and foremost, you can organize things badly. You can do it in a shitty way. You can do it in a very scattershot, inefficient way and be like, yep, nope, I organized it. Look, it's organized. And you're like, what? No, that's terrible. And the other part of this is the savior OIs might not be great at actually organizing. So, I don't know. And also, they might not even want want to organize all the time. Like, I am Elite OI. Organizing shit is not my favorite thing to do. Certainly not for myself because I'm sleep last, but even also like for other people, like when I do my podcast or even these videos, I will do the bare minimum amount of preparation because I just that's not where the resources are. That's not gonna make the times that I've prepared videos and really prepared for interviews, it's been awful and boring, and the end product is bad. I didn't have as much fun. The whole thing, I was like, I'm not doing this. This is not how I work. So why gather and optimize? Well, first off, I think optimize is a much more active word than organize. And it's also not something you can do as a distraction. It's not, right? So people will be like, well, I'm going to organize my room. I'm going to clean everything in my house to give myself a semblance of control. And it really can be sort of like a coping mechanism. In the same way that gather can be. And I think that eventually I do want to reframe the concept of gather, but one term at a time, right? But for optimize, that's really active. That requires being very present. That requires being very mindful. So, that's why I like it more. It also goes back to this idea of resource management. So, I'm a gamer, I love playing games, and every game, no matter what it is, I don't care if it's an MMO, I don't care if it's poker, I don't care if it's Magic the Gathering, I don't care if it's the game of finance or corporate recruiting or LinkedIn or Instagram, whatever it is, every game boils down to how do you manage your resources? How do you farm new resources? And how do you maximize the value of the resources you already have? That's the observer axis. It's not we're not just organizing them for the sake of like lining them up alpha. So here's a really, really concrete example. So I'm selling a bunch of my Magic cards that they've appreciated in value in the short term, but they are unlikely to continue to appreciate in value because of the reprint policy, right? So I'm like, you know what? I'm about to move. I want to get a new studio set up. I have this energy just kind of sitting in my apartment that isn't doing much. Let me turn this energy into a different kind of energy, aka money. And then I'll turn that money energy into new studio equipment, or put it towards a new computer or whatever, new lighting setup, right? So there are a lot of different ways that I can just organize my cards, right? And so like right now, they're organized by color. Okay, well that's not really OI. Like I haven't OI'd anything yet, because I can't actually do anything with the cards in that order. Conversely, it would be just as unintuitive, if you know the game, to simply organize them alphabetically, right? Technically organizing, but I'm not using my OI. That's not what's happening. What I'm trying to do, what my NI wants to do is to optimize the order in which those cards sit in that box, so that I can then scan all the prices, whatever, take them to a dealer, get there to whatever, right? And that then requires going, okay, well, let me first organize them by color. Within each color, let me sort out the cards that are just like 5 cents and 10 cent cards. Then the other ones, I will alphabetize, and then I can scan them, right? And I have now optimized the order in which the cards appear in the box, right? That is OI. Because it's recognizing, okay, here are these resources that I have. How can I arrange them so that they are actually useful? And so I think that organize, I think that just linguistically, I think just whatever connotations that I have, we have, culture at large has around organization, I don't think it serves OI. On the other side, there's a great scene in the movie High Fidelity when so that guy is kind of like a lead sleep IP. I mean, it's John Cusack, so I actually don't know what John Cusack's type is, but in the movie he is playing the archetype of sort of like a sleep consume FINI kind of guy, right? And I don't know if it's a girlfriend that comes over or a buddy, and there's a ton of records on the floor, and he's like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm reorganizing my record collection. And they're like, oh, how are you doing it? Are you doing it by release date or artist? He's like, no, I'm doing it autobiographically. So he was organizing them in the order in which he bought all of the records. Now that's a very clear example of the sleep side of OI. But I think that really gets down to, okay, what are we optimizing here? What is the end goal? Because we're not just, I don't know, do it by color, do it by artist, do it by year of release. Like, that's a really specific way to optimize the arrangement of all of these records. That is OI. I think back to when I was planning my move from New York to wherever I was going to go. And the vast majority of what I was doing, yes, it was a lot of sensory, but it was a lot of just gathering information. The whole process, like, yes, I put it on a spreadsheet, but that was only so that I could see it. Like, because otherwise it would just be, like, I just needed some box to put it in, but it wasn't really particularly organized in the sense of, at least at first, it wasn't optimized. It was like, I don't know, here's a bunch of random cities. And then slowly over time, I was like, okay, what do I actually need to know about each of these cities that I'm researching? Well, I need to research, okay, well, time zone matters a lot to me. Cost of living matters a lot to me. Access to the arts matters a lot to me. The average cost of a one-bedroom apartment matters a lot to me, right? And so in each of those little sub-columns, that's where the OI was really happening. But just to say, well, I gathered a bunch of data and I put it on a spreadsheet, it's not OI, at least in my opinion. As someone who has lead OI, that ain't OI. Just doing it, I don't think it counts. Which is why, going back to why I even want to redefine these terms to begin with, when I start to think of it as gather versus optimize, that gives so much more clarity to why it's important to do the OI, what the goal of it is. Because again, it's so easy to be like, well, it's very obvious the ways in which being stuck in your ways is bad, right? But we can all be stuck in our ways. Where it becomes problematic, regardless of what type you are, is if you're stuck in your ways and you're not trying to optimize the resources that you have. So like right now, I'm in the process of figuring out where I want to live, figuring out where I want to move to. That's the first thing I'm doing. And alongside that, putting together a new studio setup so that I can start doing self-tapes and make more YouTube videos and do better podcasting. And there's a bunch of things I want to do in my new studio space because that's just how life kind of works now, right? And it really has been a great opportunity to double observe because it's really forced me to go, okay, I have this fantastic camera. This is being filmed on the EOS Rebel T7 by Canon. Amazing camera. Fantastic bang for your buck. The reason I like Canon, this is not a plug, this is not sponsored by Canon, but the reason I love Canon so much right now is because their webcam utility. Not only can I use this as a webcam for Zoom calls, which I do all the time, or for Zoom auditions, it also lets me plug it into OBS, right, or any sort of broadcasting recording software through that utility. So I don't have to just record it on the camera and use their proprietary, EOS web utility, which I don't like that much. So I'm like, I had this fantastic camera, and for what I'm doing, I don't need 4K video. I don't need slow-mo. I don't really need to upgrade this camera. After actually looking at what I need, I think I'm good. I just don't need to. Which, okay, cool, great. So then how can I optimize the resources that I have to be the problem with the camera is that I can't plug a microphone into it. Okay, is there a workaround to that? Can I use the resources that I have to get around that issue? And, eventually the answer I came up with was yes. I just get a little lapel mic that hooks up into my computer. Now, of course, I have to go do research. I got to figure out which lapel mics sound good, which ones I like, boom, boom, boom. But the point is, my OI is going, okay, I have a fuck ton of resources already that I have already gathered right here, right now. I got a kick-ass camera. I got a kick-ass computer. I have a great, studio mic for when I do videos like this. Not so much for when I'm trying to self-tape, right? So that's going to be I got to do something different for that. But I got this. I have it's not like an audio mixer, but it's like a little preamp thing, an audio interface for when I do my guitar and my music recordings. I have this kick-ass ring light. I'm I have an abundance of shit. Before I go out and do something new, let me actually try to maximize the value in what I already have. And then once I've actually maximized it, or at least hit the point of diminishing returns, then I can go, okay, what do I need now? And in the case of doing my self-tapes, I was you know what? Having a big clunky microphone in the shot, it's not gonna work. And because sound matters a lot to me personally, I'm I'm not recording anything with shitty sound. I would love for it to look great, and of course it needs to look decent, but sound is really important to me. And so I was let me actually see what I need to get, because I currently do not own anything that will get me the quality of sound that I want, that I'm comfortable with, without having a big old microphone in the shot, right? Now, that's a great position to gather from. So all of this is to say, whether you have Save Your OE or Save Your OI, whether it's NE, NI, SE, SI, it doesn't matter. I strongly encourage you to look at the OE/OI axis as being chiefly concerned with resource management. And at least for now, thinking of the OI side of that coin as looking to extract maximum value out of the resources that you already have. Because I think from there, that will help sort of break out of this like, and I say this even for myself, as a lead OI, granted who's sleep last, but still lead OI, it fucking counts for something, being able to go, okay, I don't think that I'm getting max value out of the stuff I already have. I'm not getting max value out of those. I'm guessing I'm going to be getting like somewhere between $700 and $1,000 for those magic cards that are not being used, that are just sitting there, and that I can put towards like really nice equipment or a security deposit in my new apartment or whatever. That's just energy that's sitting there and not really being utilized, right? Same with, I got a bunch of keyboards and mice and headphones and things just lying around that I've just organically gathered over time. And now I'm like, hang on a second, am I really getting maximum value out of all of these things? And this is not to say that you have to Marie Kondo all of your possessions and like, you know, become a full stoic and live a really minimalist life. I'm not saying that at all. But I strongly recommend, regardless of what type you are, to genuinely take stock of the resources that are immediately at your disposal and go, am I getting the most value out of this? I'm just glancing around the room. So I have a little tiny electric guitar amp. I don't use it much. I got a kick-ass electric guitar back there. I don't use that a ton either. But the fact that but they bring enough value, just having access to them. Just me being able to go, whenever I want to play it, I can just plug it in, boom, go, done. Right? Great. That is enough value for me. Love it. And then I'm glancing over there and I'm like, I got a box full of headphones that I've just accumulated over the years. And I don't use a lot of them very often at all. Okay, how can I make better use of them? Can I make better use of them? Is it better to turn, even though, you know, I spent $50 on the pair of headphones. If I can turn that 50 into $25 and, you know, say, you know what, I got $25 worth of value out of this, and then I sold it for $25 on the back end, I absolutely 100% totally worth it. So all this is to say, and I'm going to get more into this in future videos, but I just wanted to talk about OI in particular and thinking of it in terms of optimizing, because I think it's so important to recognize and understand the abundance of resources within us, around us, above us, below us, and the people in our lives, in our own mind, our own psyche. There's just an abundance everywhere. And a big part of getting out of like a fear-based scarcity mindset, I really believe starts with choosing to believe that abundance is all around us, and that our job is simply to either gather that which we do not have and need, or conversely, look at what we have, be grateful for what we have, and do what we can to optimize the energy, the resources, the things, the people, the relationships, the job, the city we live in, and to really take the time to make that the best that it can possibly be. All right, That's all I got for today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Again, please be sure to like and subscribe, share far and wide. As always, I love you. I see you. Now let's do the damn thing.